Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. I have gotten quite a few requests to do a video on the KONOS character curriculum, so that's what I'm actually going to be doing today. But instead of just telling you what it is, I'm going to share with you how we use it in our relaxed homeschool. KONOS character curriculum is actually considered to be the granddaddy of all unit studies. It was written quite a while ago, I think back in like the homeschool pioneer days, and it was written by two homeschool moms. There are 3 volumes. I have volume 2 here. And this unit study is a Christian unit study based on character qualities. For example, in this one, in volume 2, this one, the character qualities focused on are inquisitiveness, responsibility, love and generosity, courage, wisdom, and loyalty. And what they do is they take different topics and they put them under those character headings. For example, under inquisitiveness, your kids will do a unit study on scientists and the scientific method. Or for example, under responsibility, maybe on early settlers you would choose. Love and generosity, Christmas. Courage is the American Revolution. Under wisdom, you could do one on government and the founding fathers. And loyalty, there's just a general unit study and citizenship. And I'll show you, those aren't the only ones, the ones that I mentioned. There's a whole list of them. Now, as you can see, these are really thick unit studies. These are written to be used. They can actually take 2.5 years to get through one volume. And remember, there are 3. Now, these are written to be used for kindergarten through 8th grade. I have actually in the past tweaked it to use with my high school son because he's very hands-on, very outdoorsy. So I actually took some of these unit studies, tweaked them a bit, and I was using them with him. So it is very flexible in that way. And the reason that I decided to share with you how we use it is because I know there are a lot of people out there who are afraid of using this unit study simply because they've heard how involved it is. And in fact, the first time, actually not the first time, but one of the first times that I was discussing it with someone, I was telling her that I wanted to use the KONOS curriculum. I didn't have it yet, but she said to me that her aunt had been using it to homeschool her kids and she stopped because she said it took too much preparation. Thankfully, I didn't listen to that. I did go on to use it, and it's actually a funny story how I actually got my first volume. After I pulled my kids back out of school after our 2-year homeschool burnout, when I sent the kids to school, I pulled them back out. I had been doing a lot of research on relaxed homeschooling, found out about KONOS curriculum, and I didn't have the money at the time to purchase it because it's about $110 if you buy it brand new. But I mentioned to someone at church that I really wanted to try it, and I was trying to save up money for it. And she said, I have a friend who is homeschooling and doesn't use that anymore and is looking for someone to give that to. So that is actually how I got my first volume of KONOS. It's as if, that was God saying, yeah, this is the path that I want you to take. So it's a really neat story how I got KONOS. But anyway, I'm going to go on now to how we use it in our homeschool. Now, if you look at the KONOS curriculum, I'll just open up to one. There are lesson plans written out in the unit study for you to use. These are just suggestions, okay? But if you are a type A homeschooler like I am, I highly suggest that you do not even look at these lesson plans. Because when I first started using it, I was like, oh, a lesson plan, it tells me just what I need to do. And I looked at it and I made the mistake of trying to do almost every single thing on the lesson plan. And I was getting really overwhelmed, and I was noticing that a lot of the stuff on the lesson plans my kids didn't really enjoy, and they were things that I didn't really feel like doing either. But I did them because they were on the lesson plan. But another thing that I realized is sometimes I would just page through it and I would notice that there were a lot of activities listed in here that weren't in the lesson plan. Activities that my kids and I really would like, and we were missing out on a lot because I was being so strict with sticking to the lesson plan. So if you're good with lesson plans and are okay with remaining flexible with them, by all means, use that as like a framework for it if you choose to. If you're like me and really like to stick to things when they're written on paper, don't look at the lesson plan, pretend it's not even there. With that being said, now I will tell you that there are a lot of activities in this unit study. a lot. As you can see, you know, it's as thick as a phone book. And they really do cover all of the subject areas, all of them. There's language arts, there's literature, reasoning, fun, math, practical living, or I call that life skills. There's science, geography, history, physical education, what I would call drama or theater, they call creative expression. There's art, music, literally everything is covered in this book. And there are so many fun activities that I would have never thought of on my own, because yeah, I do write unit studies, but this is far beyond any capacity that I have imagination wise. So yeah, I like this. I like these unit studies even more than the ones that I write myself. And I will tell you that. Now, and I also will say that I am not an affiliate of KONOS, so I am not doing this because I'm trying to earn money from them, you know, from KONOS. You see it's falling apart because I use it so much. I really do love it. That's why I'm telling you this. I really do love this. So anyway, what I was getting back to, I get off track a lot. There are a lot of activities that are really heavy duty preparation wise. There are a lot of activities that require you to either have, say, a lot of, say, extra wood and nails and, you know, for building things, or you have to go to the hardware store. And you know what? There's no law that says that you have to do those activities. And in fact, they do tell you right in the beginning here, do not try to do every single activity. You would literally take forever if you would try to do every activity. You would drive yourself crazy and you would get tired of this really fast. You have to choose your activities wisely. You have to take into consideration, what do I like to do as the mom? What is my teaching style? Take into consideration your kids. What are they going to enjoy? If you see an activity, even if you think that it looks really cool, if you know that it's going to make your kids cry, I suggest you skip it. Also, think to yourself, how much preparation do I want to put into this? If you are somebody who loves to do those Pinterest-worthy projects, there are tons of them in here, I'm telling you. If you're not, like me, there's plenty of other things in here too. I just skip them. Now, I do want to say that you don't want to skip all of the elaborate projects. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there are some of them that may seem that like they might be a little bit intimidating. For example, there was one when we first started using it where we actually had to make an ear tunnel in our house. And it did take some preparation. It didn't cost anything because, you know, we just used stuff around the house. Like we used blankets and we found a hammer and just all sorts of things. And what we did was we went in the playroom and we set up an ear tunnel for the kids to crawl through. And my daughter's smiling because I think she remembers it. She was like in kindergarten or pre-K at the time. She still remembers it. She's almost 13. And as they crawled through this little tunnel, they had to name each part of the ear that they were pointing at. And it was really fun. And at first glance, when I saw this ear tunnel, I thought to myself, oh, I don't want to do that. That's too much. But I thought, well, the kids might enjoy it. Let's just do it. Well, you know what? We had so much fun. And as you can see with my daughter, here we are all these years later, and she still remembers it. This is one of my kids' favorite homeschooling memories. Another one that my kids really enjoyed that also really did take a lot of preparation. And these are both from the Volume 1 KONOS that we have. I did complete that one. But another one is we had a medieval feast. And what we did, my daughter's smiling again. She remembers that one too. We had a medieval feast. We were learning about the Middle Ages. And all of the kids had to research different types of servants in those days. You know, there were carvers and servitors, and there were jesters and all sorts of servants that they had in those days. They had to choose one. Actually, I think they chose two. And then they had to serve at the meal. If they were a jester, they had to come up with some sort of a little skit to do. We actually invited, my oldest daughter at the time was still in public school, so she invited a friend over to come over for this feast. We also created the meal. We used authentic recipes from that time period. And what we did was got little crusty rolls. We dug out the insides, and they were called trenchers. We stuck the food in there, and everybody had to use their hands to eat. And it was really fun. You know, my kids practiced every day the wassail song because they sang that as entertainment. And we just had such a good time with that medieval feast. And yes, it was a lot of work. So don't write something off because it looks a little intimidating. Most things, yes, but I would say that there are some things that you really should consider. But again, consider yourself, consider your child, and just think to yourself, do I have the time to do this? Do I have the money to get the supplies for this? If you don't, skip it. There is no law that says that you have to do it. So don't get intimidated by how deep some of these activities are. Skip them if they're not for you. Another tip that I have in our homeschool is if, for example, my kids are using an activity that covers language arts, we won't do language arts that day. And as you know, we only do copy work for our language arts. And what happens is a lot of times we'll do copy work, or they might write something in here. We also do notebooking for language arts too. I forgot to add that. But anyway, what the point I was making was you don't want to be redundant. If you are covering language arts in your unit study, you can skip your language arts curriculum for the day. It's fine. Same thing with math. My kids love when we do math related activities with our unit study because they know they're going to skip their math textbook that day. Don't be redundant. You don't need to cover the same subject area over again if you're already going to do it in the unit study. Now, another thing that you need to consider is how many activities per day can you and your child handle? Some people might be able to handle 5 unit study activities a day. Others might be able to only handle 1, and that's completely fine. It is entirely up to you and your children and what all of you can take. Now, in our house, we do usually 2 unit study activities today. Although if we have something small, like if they have to do a copy work verse of a Bible passage, then we'll do 3 unit study activities. But we usually keep it at 2 because that's about the point where I know that I will still have my kids' attention. If I go any farther than that, their minds start wandering and they just start thinking, okay, when are we going to finish this? When are we going to finish this? So I know that 2 is good for us. So you really have to consider that for you and your family. Also, I also had questions on how I plan my, not just unit studies, but how we plan our homeschool. And I will be coming out with a video in a few weeks about that. But for the time being, I'm just going to tell you that I know that there are all sorts of beautiful planners out there, and they are so detailed, and the people who made them put so much work into them. As for me, though, my planning method is as simple as my homeschool. I use usually spiral notebooks. That's it. And I don't go all out like I know a lot of people do. Back when I first started using KONOS, I remember I did watch a video of how a woman uses KONOS, and I thought, oh, it'll be interesting to see how she does this. Well, she had this intricate plan for how she uses KONOS, and she typed out all sorts of pages for each unit study, and she would highlight something in one color and highlight something in another color and had all these separate book lists. And I just sat there watching it thinking, oh my gosh, I would quit homeschooling if I did that. If you like stuff like that, by all means do it. If you don't feel like a failure if you don't like doing that. A spiral notebook is fine. Trust me. Now, right now, I don't have a spiral notebook. So right now, I'm just using, this is my blogging binder. And I'm just using this. I'm waiting for the spiral notebooks to go on sale at Walmart for 10 cents each. And then I'm going to go there and I'm going to stock up on a bunch of spiral notebooks because we love them here. And I'm going to transfer everything to that. But as of right now, so that I have a bit of a lesson plan written out because we are starting school on July 17th, I'm just using my blogging binder. And I'm just going to show you really quickly, just like a quick example of this. Now, I don't know if you can see this. At the top, see, it's nothing, like, it's kind of sloppy, but it works for me. Okay, like at the top, I have written down what sorts of materials we'll be needing for the activities that I have planned. And I just have like some notes that I need for myself written at the top. And then all I do, for example, I have D1. That means day 1. And I do have that we're going to start July 17th, but if we end up not being able to do this that day, I don't freak out. I just go on and do it the next day. But so all I do is I'll write down the number of the activity. For example, we're going to do activity number 25, the Grand Canyon Suite. And then I put down what subject it covers and what we're going to do. So for example, we're going to be listening to the Grand Canyon Suite, and we're going to paint while we listen to that. So that's activity 25. On activity 27, I just write down soil samples. That's going to be covering science. They're going to go outside and take some soil samples. And then all I write is copywork, math, and then I write a vocabulary word for each child to look up to put in a glossary at the back of their notebook. That's it. I don't write down what their copywork is. I don't even write down their math pages, because in our house, I don't assign certain pages for certain days. We do the math assignment. I have something on my hand. We do the math assignment, and then we do the next section the next day. And I know that I used to write down, back when we used to do workbooks for language arts, I did used to write things down all the time. And I started thinking to myself, why am I writing down the page numbers? Because I just know that we're going to do the next page the next day. So that's a tip that I have for you. I know a lot of you homeschool planners really like to write out all the page numbers and everything. But what I found is that if something throws off your schedule, you're going to go crazy because you're going to think, I missed that. So don't date your planner. And don't write down pages if you know that you're just going to do the next page the next day. That's my quick tip. But more on that in a couple weeks. So yeah, that's all I do for my planning. And everybody thinks that I must have this intricate lesson plan because I've got so many kids. But no, that's exactly why I don't have an intricate lesson plan, because I don't have time to sit there planning all of these things out. I write down the basics of what we're going to do, and I have to keep in mind that things might change. And that goes with your unit study too. I really suggest that you don't write dates on what days you want to do certain activities. If you're going to do a field trip, yes, then absolutely do that. Or if you are going to plan a medieval feast, for example, and have people over, yes, set a date for that. But otherwise, really try to be flexible, because life happens in the midst of homeschool and you're going to go crazy if you try to do everything. I really hope that I've covered everything. Let me just look on my little list here. Oh, one more thing. Since we started notebooking, I have actually become more choosy about the activities that we use, because now the activities that we do, I make sure that they are able to be either put in a notebook or that we're able to take a picture of the activity and then put that in the notebook. Because before we started notebooking, we would always do these activities, and then I would end up just stashing the papers somewhere, or we would put them in a folder and then they would fall out of the folder and we would lose them. So they were doing all of this hard work in these unit studies, and we ended up throwing a lot of the stuff away. So I've really become more choosy in the activities for that reason. I wanted something that I think is worthy to be put in the notebook. And if you can't flatten it and put it in the notebook, then we take a picture of it, and I will put that in the notebook too. So that is a great organization skill to have for your kids, is just to keep a unit study binder, keep a KONOS binder. I'm really glad that we've come up with that, because it's really going to help us to keep track of all of those papers. So anyway, now I think I've covered everything. So if you have any other questions about KONOS, leave a comment. And remember, I will be doing a video on planning in a couple of weeks. And I hope you have a great day.